Hey guys, welcome to 6 Minutes for Tuesday, May 17th. I'm Jason Fulmore, SC Russell. Today we tackle state representation at Southeast Regions and really who should be crowing over the next few months about the strength of their USA Wrestling program based upon the results from this past weekend. But before we get to that, I think it's important to talk about state representation because it's a thing. I mean, in Fargo, and again, understand not everyone goes to Fargo, and not everybody's concerned about Fargo and freestyle and Greco and so on and so forth. But USA Wrestling is our sanctioning body for wrestling. It is the body we go through to get to the Olympics and so on and so forth. So Fargo is the biggest tournament of the year for lots of age group wrestlers. And boy, all you have to do is get online and watch Illinois and Pennsylvania go at it, talking about who is the best state as it relates to titles, as it relates to the strength of their USA Wrestling program. So this is a thing and something I think we should talk about. Now, I also recognize that this conversation and some of the numbers that we're going to have is going to or could elicit a lot of comments on social media from, we didn't bring our best team, to it was too far away, or kids went to a different tournament, or so on and so forth. All that's true, but the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, you wrestle with the team that you brought, and for all of the states had wrestlers that they didn't bring, and others that they did, and excelled and wrestled great. And some weight classes were super deep, and other weight classes weren't as deep. This is a regular occurrence, so not one that we're surprised about. So let's jump in, talk a little bit about kind of the numbers as it relates to the states, and we begin with girls because, unfortunately, I think the girls had fewer participants than I was kind of hoping for, especially after the movement we've had over the last couple of years in getting states sanctioned for high school girls wrestling. As you can see, if we take the top placers, and before we get to this, there's a lot of different ways to measure success. I've tried to highlight a couple of different ways that you can measure success in each of these graphs, or in each of these graphics. So top four placers in both styles, folk style and freestyle for girls, Tennessee was up ahead, 29. They also had the most champs, 10, 4 ahead of Florida, which had 6, and you can see all the way down. Freestyle, they had 14 top 4 placers. Next closest was North Carolina. So at the end of the day, Tennessee brought more girls than everyone else, I believe, and those girls performed, and they wrestled exceptionally well. So congratulations to the Tennessee girls. I think they have a lot to be proud of over the next few months and look good. So let's jump to 14U and the 14U group. And this, you can see, we've gone a couple of different ways to try to measure success at a state level in terms of the 14, the 16, and the juniors. Total placers, all styles, freestyle, folk style, and Greco. Champs in all styles, the percent of placers versus the number that competed. So I think that shows that, those states that brought a lot might have had more placers, but maybe they didn't place a high percentage of the kids that they brought. And then because we are focused on freestyle and Greco, the total placers in top 4 for freestyle and Greco only. And as we look at the 14U graphic, you can see that, once again, Tennessee, dominated in the 14U category. 57 total placers in all styles, 21 champs in all styles. If we break it down simply by freestyle and Greco, they still were well ahead, almost double the number from Georgia. They had 42 top 4 placers in freestyle and Greco. Obviously, a good example is Hudson Chittum accounted for, 3 of those and champions of those 21 up top. So obviously, it's a particular kid may have contributed a larger number, But still, again, as a whole, the state really wrestled very, very well in the 14U group. If we look at it as a percentage of the placers that competed in all styles, Alabama, 76% of the kids that they brought made the podium in all styles. That's great. They did not bring nearly as the number that the other states brought, but the kids that did come, 3/4 of them made the podium. So interesting to look at 14Us. You do see Florida down here at the bottom in several of these. 14Us were not their strong suit, but they did have some success in some of the other age groups. So let's jump to 16Us. 16Us, again, thing that stands out to me is the Tennessee flag sitting on top of the three that we just talked about. Total placers, all styles. They had 46. Again, almost double Georgia, who was in second. They had 11 champs in all styles, and they had 33 total placers in freestyle and Greco. Fantastic. You can see that Florida had fewer. They were down in number 5 spot in total placers, all styles, but they had quite a few champs. They had 8 champs in all styles. So when they did make the podium, they had a tendency to be at the top end of that podium as opposed to the bottom end of the podium. And you can see as a percentage of the placers who competed, more than half of the wrestlers from Florida in the 16U group made the podium. No other state can say that in 16U state numbers. So really interesting. Again, Tennessee, that tells you that they probably brought some real hammers. I know that there were several kids who weren't present from Tennessee who would have been pushing for a place on the podium as well. So don't draw the conclusion it's just because they brought their best kids, because they brought some fantastic kids, and those kids performed and wrestled exceptionally well. Jumping to the juniors, and the juniors, we had a tie. Top 4 placers, all styles. North Carolina and Tennessee both had 32. Florida actually had the most champs in all styles with 8. Total placers in freestyle and Greco, again, we go back to Tennessee and North Carolina sharing that top spot, each with 22. And again, Florida had more than half of their juniors make the podium in all styles. So again, you know, if Florida brought some kids, or the kids that they did bring, more than half of them made the podium. The thing that I think is really interesting as you kind of dissect, and there's a lot of different ways to look at success. The conversations that are had between Illinois and Pennsylvania is who had the most All-Americans, or who had the most champs, or who had this, or who had that. I think there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice it and to look at it. I think at the end of the day, as we look at the numbers straight out, Coach Mike Hatcher and his staff in Tennessee have to be super pleased with the success that they've shown in lots of respects, but especially here at the 2022 Southeast Regions. I hope you guys have a great day, and I think tomorrow we'll jump back in and talk about some of the positives, negatives, some of the things that worked, maybe some of the things that didn't work, your comments from this past weekend in Cherokee, North Carolina. You guys take care. See ya.